Welcome, everybody, to the American Space Museum. I'm Marquette. We're so glad you're with us to stay curious today. June 11th, 2024. We got the beautiful Earth behind us here. What a glorious planet. Any alien would want to visit it, I'm sure. And we've got a good program for you today. We're going to talk about our upcoming Space Memorabilia Auction. That is a main charity event for our humble nonprofit. It's going to be June 22nd, the day before Father's Day. So we're going to start to preview today, and of course the next 2 weeks, some amazing items that you can buy at this auction by Bid Again Auctions, our auction house. Thanks to Chuck Jeffrey, who's our board member and been involved with the museum for now almost a decade, I believe. Chuck has got some great things. It's one of the best auctions I've seen in a couple years, with a great variety of things. And I'm in here in my studio with Marty Winkle, my co-producer. Hey, Marty. He's sitting over there in the lounge chair as Logan Cope is doing our Streamlabs work today. He's our intern from Eastern Florida State College. Thank you for Logan for being so loyal and conscientious with the program. He's been doing it for about 3 weeks now. But Marty, I don't know if you looked at that auction yet, but boy, there's a lot of great items on there. So you better be checking what your spending allowance is, and because there's a lot of astronaut crews and stuff like that. It's really, I think it's a real rich auction, and not that they all aren't, but some have, like Chuck had one that was all photographs, did quite well. Well, we want to remind everybody that Terry White will be here tomorrow. We're going to talk about delay pressure that shuttle missions may have had. The media got pretty terse in questioning the Starliner, and you know, that it had these leaks and so forth like that, and actually in a way making fun of the fact that Starliners had problems. And Terry's going to straighten us out a little bit. This is the business of sending humans into outer space, for God's sakes, and you don't want anything to go wrong. And Terry's going to talk about a couple shuttle missions that got a little media pressure because they kept being delayed. So you'll enjoy that always with our mustachioed friend Terry White here tomorrow on Stay Curious. And then another great partner of ours, a good friend over in Europe, Alex Carl, will be talking to us from Cologne, Germany, the headquarters of ESA, as he is at a Eurocom. He talks to the astronauts on the International Space Station that are involved with ESA. They don't have one up there right now, and the next launch of Crew 9 in September is not going to have any Europeans on it. So we'll talk to Carl about that, but also, he is involved with Asteroid Day, which is a day to celebrate when the Earth could be doomed, quite frankly. June 30th is when an asteroid or comet blew up over Siberia over 100 years ago. It leveled thousands of miles of trees. If it had hit over Moscow, it would have destroyed the city. Simple as that. So it's not a question of if, but when a killer asteroid could hit the Earth. Anybody remember the dinosaurs 65 million years ago? That just blows my mind. 65 million years ago, dinosaurs, these creatures so gigantic, were roaming the Earth. And human beings, like we know them, have only been roaming the Earth maybe 10,000 years, maybe in an intelligent way. So, but Alex Carl, looking forward to talking to him on Stay Curious via Google Meets. We're going to get back into doing that thanks to our intern Logan and Marty doing it together and figuring out how we can get back in the groove to do that. Well, here's a sample of some of the auction items that you're going to see in any of our auctions. There's always lots of passes, car passes to shuttle launches, passes to the launch control itself that are very cherished, particularly the Mercury and Gemini ones, and Apollo ones, of course. All kinds of rare artifacts, space-flown flags. Okay, we even had an engine that we've tried to sell. It's not in this auction, but it's still available. You can PM me if you want to buy that engine for $50,000. Well, we got a birthday today. Happy 80th birthday to James Dougal Adrianus Van Hoften. nicknamed Ox, was born June 11th, 1944 in Fresno, California, but he considers Burlingame, California to be his hometown. Van Hoften, he's of Dutch descent, Vietnam Navy fighter pilot, spent 14 days in space on two mid-1980s shuttle missions, pioneering spacewalks. See, this is a real pioneering astronaut that did some things that no one has done before. He served as mission specialist on 41C that helped rescue the Solar Max satellite. He wasn't involved with that. Pinky Nelson was with the Manned Maneuvering Unit, but he tested it in the payload bay. There he is a few years ago. Ox also was on 51I that in 1985 deployed 3 satellites, and then he went out on the robotic arm, the RMS, and is the first human to capture a satellite with his own hands, going 17,500 miles an hour around the Earth, and he reaches up and grabs this Navy CENTCOM 4-3 satellite on this spacewalk there. So he's had over 12 days in space, 22 hours of extravehicular activities. That's 3 spacewalks. And would love to meet him. He's 80 years old. Ox Van Hoften, happy birthday to you. He had an illustrious career, I mean. After his astronaut career, he was former vice president and partner of Bechtel Corporation out of Columbus, Ohio. And he was designing global airports and so forth in the Middle East. So quite an intelligent guy, very involved in aviation all his life, and we wish a happy 80th birthday to Ox Van Hoften, one of the true pioneers of our space shuttle era. Well, something happened yesterday, June 10th, that may have missed your news headlines, unless, of course, you're looking at the American Space Museum's Facebook page, as we talked about. On June 10th, 1969, just a month away from the historic landing on the moon, NASA canceled a $3 billion program called the Manned Orbiting Laboratory. And I love talking about the mole. This is one of these NASA concepts that what if, just like the dinosaur, the single seat space fighter plane that the Air Force wanted to design, this is also an Air Force invention, concept that they wanted to put a Gemini spacecraft, launch it onto a, with the laboratory attached to it, and through a hatch in the heat shield, astronauts would enter the manned orbiting laboratory that definitely had a spy connotation to it there. This is shown in a configuration of solar panels, a telescope or some other listening, maybe visual device outside, and a whole bay of experiments there. When they canceled it, Air Force, the U.S. Department of Defense canceled it June 10th, 1969 to reduce spending, and shift some of that spending to some of the last Apollo missions maybe. But the real reason was the technology was making the mole obsolete. You did not need human beings in space for spy versus spy activities to man cameras and radar dishes and things like that might be up there. No, the technology of the micro miniaturization of circuitry was creating a better access to space for cameras with spy satellites. And so the mole was scrapped. 17 Air Force astronauts were given their walk-in papers, but 7 of them went on to fly in the space shuttle in the 1980s. This also had 10,000 space workers laid off as a result of the cancellation of the Manned Orbiting Laboratory. Many of those found jobs in other NASA sectors with contractors. And out at Vandenberg, Slick 6, the famous launch pad, was going to be used for this mission because it could go in a polar orbit very easily. It had to be mothballed, though it was 90% finished. Later, it was repurposed for other satellites and then eventually repurposed again for the space shuttle program. But it was never launched. The shuttle was never launched from there, nor a manned orbiting laboratory. Uh, the mole termination required that the food and diet contract with Whirlpool and the spacesuit development with Hamilton's Standard Division be transferred to NASA. But some of the mole items have made their ways to the museum. And we're going to show a couple things there. But there was the concept of it. The main cabin, we're going to see a shot in the main cabin looking into the hole in the, that would be the hatch for the reentry. You know, you have an auxiliary cabin. They got an experiment module, of course, with nothing in it, equipment module, and then the trans stage was the rocket that boosted them up there. Apparently was going to stay intact. It was the whole thing was all together. All right, and then the Gemini space capsule would separate, and they would land in the ocean like they always did. Here is Bob Crippen, a mole astronaut. Some of them were, Peterson was a mole astronaut. I should have wrote them down. They all flew on shuttles. Richard Truly was a mole astronaut who just passed away. Up at the top is the hatch that you see that could be opened up. And this was the Gemini 2 spacecraft that was practiced to use this. The only spacecraft that was launched twice before the shuttle changed that. Look at the pattern on the heat shield of it there. This is out at Cape Canaveral Space Force. You have to buy an upgraded ticket to go out there and see it, but I've seen it many times on some of the tours I've done with the Chamber of Commerce groups and that. So this Gemini B was used only on the MOLE program, and it's on display there. Another Gemini B spacecraft is at the Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, all right? And they found in a locker room at Cape Canaveral in Complex 5 in 2005, they found some spacesuits. Here, before we're going to look at a training astronaut in a blue spacesuit, blue for Air Force, and that is the hatchway that goes to the hatch that is the access into the Gemini spacecraft, all right? So look pretty modern inside there. They were really, it was very well planned and ready to launch maybe after one of the moon landings, but deemed unnecessary to risk humans there, and that unmanned satellites could do better. There's Crip with the blue spacesuit. This one is shown at the Oklahoma Science Museum. I've seen that myself. I couldn't believe it when I was in Oklahoma City and turned around in their fabulous space gallery there. They really got a great job there at the Oklahoma City Science Center. And I go, what's this blue suit? I'd never seen a blue suit before. And then read up, this was one of the Air Force's MOLE spacesuits, okay? That was, and they declassified in 2015 800 files and photos related to the MOLE program. You know, well, I couldn't find any of those photos. I'll have to look a little bit harder. So quite a chapter of history of our manned space program. That here's another look at it, codenamed Dorian. All right, this is the Gemini re-enter upper stages, okay? Just a fabulous concept that never came to fruition, all right? And as we segue into the, though they didn't waste, spent $1.5 billion. That's 15 billion in today's money, 60 years later. The whole program would have cost 30 billion. So it was competing money-wise with the Apollo program. But Apollo in June '69 was everything. All the hardware had already been built. It was just sitting in warehouses ready to be integrated and flown to the moon. So I love the MOLE program. Hope you do. And as we segue into a preview of our wonderful memorabilia auction on Saturday, June 22nd. This is a patch Manned Orbiting Laboratory, United States Air Force Flight Crew. I've never ever seen this patch. I've only seen a picture of it. I need to ask Chuck about it if he's ever seen one. Sure, it's worth $300 to $500 probably easily. But look at the Earth there. You've got the Earth on one side and the face of an astronaut profile on the other side. That's a pretty cool looking patch there. Even though this one looks like it's gone through a washing machine, all wrinkled up and stuff. I would love to own it. And as we talk about the auction, I'll find out how much that patch. It's not in our auction. I didn't want to say that. This is a patch that if you ever see it, boy, it will be worth some money. So we're going to look at some items already. There's some things that are in the auction there. A permanent firing room pass for Apollo 17. All right, that means that you were allowed to go in at all the launches. There is the first a postal cover signed by Buzz Aldrin in the lower right, Neil Armstrong in the middle, and Michael Collins on the left. That doesn't look like Michael Collins' autograph there. I'm not sure. Yeah, that is Collins' autograph there. I see it now. He always ran his name together there. If you wonder what those go for, $3,000 to $5,000 all day long. All right. Neil Armstrong alone is worth over $1,000. Okay. And how do you make sure you're buying the real thing? We buy from reputable dealers and auction houses like ours and Bid Again Auctions. Here's some things that Bid Again Auctions, led by Chuck Jeffries, got a big Apollo group there. Just a mishmash of all kinds of Apollo things that I see almost on a daily basis. You put them all together and they're worth $100 or more. We hope $200-300. You got patches, you got decals, you got letters written to workers thanking them for helping them go to the moon. The autographs are printed autographs. But still worth having as they were given to space workers. Here's a couple lots, 21, 22, and 23. Marty, there's a 301 lots, so it's about a minute a lot, so it's going to take about 5 hours, starting at noon on the 22nd, which is Father's Day Saturday. So buy something for Father's Day, print it out, and hand it to him in an envelope and say, Dad, I bought you this very rare STS-13 Black Cat patch. All right, that the bid's already up to $600. An hour ago, Marty, I thought it was $500. Well, this isn't live, but the bid's up to $600, already exceeding Chuck Jeffrey, our auction analyst and museum board member, exceeding what he thought it would go for. This is a patch by the STS crew 51. This was Van Hoften's crew, 51C, I believe it was. It would have been the 13th shuttle in the series. Well, after STS-9, they being the government, went to a system of where they went to 41A, 41B. Well, the 4 was the 1984 fiscal year. 1 was launched from Kennedy. 2 would have been Vandenberg, and then A, B, C, D. And maybe they wanted to avoid the unlucky 13 number that plagued Apollo 13, but I don't think so. It was an accounting measure that they did it for. But the crew, not wanting to be trichophobia people, scared of 13, they decided to make up their own patch. They decided, Dick Scobie, who was the pilot, designed a patch showing symbols of bad luck, such as a black cat, number 13, shuttle flying underneath the black cat like a ladder. All right, you see that there. It was extremely exclusive, and George Nelson, Pinky Nelson, stated that he understood less than 20 of these patches have been manufactured. This is one out of those 20, a very, very rare and unusual find. It's a 6x4 inch patch, and it's accompanied by this 8x10 photograph of the patch there. So you can find some super rare things. Arnold Richmond was the chief public relations officer here at Kennedy Space Center, and he donated a lot of things to us. He was one of the presidents of the Memorial Foundation. This is a space flown at NASA administration flag that was flown on STS-26. They returned to flight after Columbia. So I would say this is good Chuck estimates 100 to 500. I hope it slots in there easily $200 to $300. And then here are beta patches, a full set of beta patches. These are the cloth emblems that were fireproof that were on the astronauts' suits there. So you've got all of the Apollo missions except Apollo 1, of course. So you got 7 through 17 and the ASTP patch there. So those are usually $100 a piece, and you can get them at a bargain, I guarantee you. Well, this Cheryl at the top there is Cheryl Armstrong. She was an executive secretary at Johnson Space Center, and she has given the American Space Museum a lot of cool things to put in our auctions and make 100% profit on that. Now, if you got space memorabilia, you give it to us, you deal with Chuck, and he sets a fee of you're going to get such and such percentage. It's usually always over 70% you get, and he keeps the rest goes to his auction house and the museum. So the museum adds a service fee and a fee for you donation to the museum based on your purchase there. So get a drink there. So it's very fair, but this is a Defense Department mission, and they are the stealth crew because they couldn't talk about it. This was the first Defense Department mission, STS 5041C, I think. Gary Payton, L. Onizuka, his only flight. Lauren Shriver was the commander. There's Buckley and Ken Mattingly on there. Look at Ken Mattingly with a knife in his mouth there. Astronauts would do these gag type shots and quite elaborate. This is one of the most elaborate ones I've ever seen, Marty. But there's to Cheryl, not to worry, the stealth crew will be there. And God bless El Onizuka. So we're talking about 2 astronauts that have lost their lives in this auction here. Now these are special. Mike Baker, twice a pilot, twice a commander of the shuttle, and a great friend of ours here at the American Space Museum. Marty and I have taken him out to dinner more than twice. He's a great guy. Bakes gave us these. He's consigned them. When he was the astronaut liaison for NASA at Star City in Kazakhstan, when we were sending Americans to the space station on the Soyuz spacecraft, our only way to get there, he accumulated all these photographs of formal pictures. The ones on the left were you had very formal pictures taken with the cosmonauts and the astronauts. The mayor of Kazakhstan was there, the fire chief, public affairs officials. All these officials are in there. And Bakes had them sign a lot of this stuff there. There's the crew there. There's Rick Mastracchio, Marty, on the 2014 crew on the far right. Rick Mastracchio, he mixes up some mean cocktails, I'll tell you. He was at the Astronaut Challenge there. All you had to do was whiff his and you got high off of it, I think. But that was his mission, one of them up to the space station. And that's, I think that's Kawachi Hakai there on the left there, who I've also met. Hashidi, Kawachi, Mr. Hashidi there. Here's a couple more of Bake's photographs. There you've got Kanyenko in the middle, on the cosmonauts, and a Japanese astronaut. And to Bakes, this is signed to him up at the top. Kanyenko has set the record of over 1,000 days in space accumulative on his 5 missions to the space station. When he comes back in about 60 days, he'll have over 1,060 days in space, more than any human by about 200 days. And there's some other pictures that were taken as the dignitaries arrive in the different vehicles, and the astronauts have signed some of those there. So, good finds there, and great for you autograph hunters to get something out of the box from astronaut Mike Baker. And he's got 7 or 8 other things in there that we'll talk about. And the last couple items here, To help you stay curious, firing badges from the Apollo era. All right, those are always going for a couple $100 or more. Apollo 12 access viewing badges. Okay, there are public affairs site access. You got the launch site access. This is history, folks, where people witnessed history. The second moon landing in November 1969. And then you've got a big collection of coins there. Some of them are duplicates. A lot of them have metal contained from a spacecraft or the Saturn V in there. The details of this are on there, but that makes for a great Father's Day gift for anybody. Something original. But you want to get Dad something really cool and expensive? Marty Winkle is familiar with these items. The Apollo Lunar Module S-band antenna. In fact, Marty helped Chuck authenticate this. So you could have an S-band antenna component, part of the electronics on it, not the antenna itself, but the base part. And then you've got the lunar over here module antenna, the LNB, Marty. He's got the antenna LNB. Is that? Not sure what that could mean. Yeah. Well, anyway, that might be.
I don't know what he means by LNB.
Right. That might be a typo there. But anyway, that should go maybe to $1,000. Either one of these items. They were actually on lunar modules that were in assembly, extra spare parts. And there you go, a perfect little thing for your man cave, space cave with your friends and so forth. So there we have a little bit of our auction to share with you all and some space history today. Hope Dave Stange enjoyed that. We've got Mitch at Man Space is watching, Stephen Jokums, Carlton Bailey, Tommy Usiak, Gary Gerald, and Tom Celentano enjoying some space history and getting ready to buy something at the auction. I know Tom Celentano's been looking at some things there to buy, and I think he'll agree with me. This is a very diversified and rich auction. We've got things from 2 NASA VIPs and several others in there, one being a Johnson Space Center Secretary Cheryl Armstrong and Mr. Richmond, who gave out all of the passes and so forth here at Space Center for years. In fact, some of his Apollo 11 passes are in this auction, and they fetch a couple $100 each. And then we got 2 astronauts, Woody Spring, and I didn't show anything of Woody Spring today because our lights went out here. We had a big power failure, and I couldn't load up everything I wanted to. We're going to feature Woody Spring's coins, the Robbins coins. We'll feature some of those on our next Stay Curious program on Friday. So look forward to that. Go to our website. Again, our power went out and our computers were down for a while, and we got back up just in time to do the show, so I didn't put a little slide together to tell you where to go to our website. Up at the top, auctions, and just click the buttons and it'll take you right there. Register to bid, and bid till it hurts. And if you bid now, bid $500 on something, and the bidding only gets up to $150, you get that next slot at $175, though you're willing to go to $500. So it's a fun educational time to watch it. Put the app down from you'll see steps to do that. And we're looking forward to Terry White tomorrow. So if you got questions about Terry, we're going to talk about the media and the I'm going to call them the armchair flight directors and engineers second guessing things that are being done because it's taken too long. So that'll be fun to do with Terry, and then hopefully we'll hook up with Alex Carl in Europe on Thursday and talk about the European Space Agency and Asteroid Day. So thank you all for watching today. Thank you for a good job on our Streamlabs computer there, Logan. Logan Cope, our intern from the Eastern Florida State College, and Marty Winkle didn't have to tell him to do a thing today. So we appreciate Marty being here as always, and we appreciate institutions like the Eastern Florida State College helping our humble nonprofit. And of course, you can help us financially anytime you want by going to our website and donating some money to us here. Tax exempt. Okay, so until tomorrow, when we're going to have that guy with the handlebar mustache, I'm Mark Marquette saying I can't wait to see you in our museum to bridge the space between us. See you later.